I am at this point in my knitting journey where I've made enough items that I really like wearing, and I've had some time to be able to wear things a lot to the point of holes appearing in them, a lot of pilling happening, some discoloration happening. So I think the next step for me in my knitting journey is learning how to take care of knits. This would involve things like mending holes, depilling, properly washing knits, all with the goal of restoring them and bringing them to a state of, first of all, being able to be worn. Like, I'm talking specifically about like socks that have holes in them, and yeah, just keeping them fresh and taking really good care of them. I had actually wanted to start the new year by doing this project, by gathering up all of my hand knits that need some sort of attention, and like starting the new year with just like everything is fresh and clean and there's no holes in anything. But I have been a little bit intimidated by the thought of learning how to mend holes in socks. For me, that is a completely new skill. It looks to me like it's more similar to maybe weaving than knitting, which I've never done before. And that kind of scares me a bit, to learn a completely new skill from nothing. When I started knitting again a couple of years ago, I had some base knowledge of how to knit. So I wasn't starting from nothing. With this, I'm starting from nothing, which is a little bit scary. And I think it's more like the brain space and brain capacity needed to learn a new skill that I'm worried that I'm lacking right now. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. I have 3 pairs of socks that have holes, so I'll get a lot of practice. Let's take a look at what knits need attention and what I specifically want to do with them. I have 2 pairs of these 100% wool socks. One is my husband's pair, and then one is mine. And I made these for us for Christmas, not this past Christmas, but the one before. And they both have holes in them. I think in mine there's just 1 hole, but in my husband there's like 4 holes, and his really need to be depilled. I think what I'm learning from this, since both of these socks wore through so quickly, is maybe that this yarn wasn't a good 100% wool option for sock knitting. Either that, or I just didn't use small enough needles, like my gauge wasn't tight enough. And it could have been a combination of that too. So these are really nice socks, and I want to just restore them back to what they were. I guess these need to be depilled too, hey? So my plan for these: mend the holes, depill them, give them a good wash and block, and hopefully they'll be good as new. My first ever pair of socks that I made also has a hole in it, and a couple places where the fabric's getting quite thin. You can see here, these are not 100% wool. They have some nylon in them, but yeah, you can see at the heel and then by the toe, the fabric's really getting thinner. I thought there was a hole in here. That's why I haven't, oh yeah, okay. On the heel on this one, there's something going on here. So this one again, this pair again needs some mending. I don't know if you can maybe do some like reinforcements of those areas that are getting thinner, because if I mend the hole and then start wearing it again, I'm pretty immediately gonna get holes in those spots where the fabric's thinner. So I'll have to figure out if that's a thing, like reinforcing fabric that's thinning. And then these need a good depill as well. I have a couple pairs of white socks that have some discoloration happening. These, I don't know if it's really that apparent right now. You can see maybe right here, there's some like, it's kind of got a grayish tone to it on this part of the sock, and also probably on the heels. Actually, these ones don't look too bad. But these ones you can definitely see more. And these ones I've worn recently, so they're gonna look extra. Ugh. Yeah, so there's discoloration happening here and a little bit on the heel. When I wash these, they get to a point where they're clean, but they just have that kind of discoloration, permanent discoloration. I'm not going to say permanent because I'm going to try to get it out, but I have tried hand washing both of these with wool soap and then also just like Dawn dish soap. And I have also just put these in the washing machine with our regular clothes. And yeah, like I said, it gets to a point where it's clean, but there's just some discoloration happening. So I want to try a few different things to try and get the color back to what it was. And finally, I have my cinema sweater, which really needs to be depilled. Okay, maybe like that. All of the brushed alpaca silk is kind of balling up and making all these little pills, mostly like on the underside of the arms and then along the sides and kind of in the front and back too. I guess maybe wherever things are rubbing against it. So yeah, one sweater that needs a good depilling, and then 1, 2, 3, 5 pairs of socks that need various things. I think you can see the pilling a lot better now from this angle. Like you can see all kind of on this front section and then on the underside of the arms. The outside of the arms still look quite good, but then on the underside where you get the friction like against the side of the sweater happening, that's where there's some pilling going on. I think I'm going to start with something easy, which is depilling this and trying my first experiment with getting these back to their normal color. I do have one of these fabric shaver depiller things, which is what I'm going to use for this. I do also have a razor if this doesn't work, but I'm sure it's going to work. I'm not actually sure how well this depiller is working. This sleeve is the one that I did, and I passed over it a number of times, and then this sleeve is the one that I haven't done yet. I don't know if there's really that much difference. Like I feel like in this lighting, like with the light coming across it and making shadows over the pills, you can really see that it didn't, like it still looks a little worn, you know? I'm going to try with a razor and see if that makes a difference. Just after the first couple swipes with a razor, I think this is going to work a lot better, or like result in a better looking fabric than that little fabric lint depiller or whatever. Because stuff actually like the pills actually come off. And I do feel a little like, oh, so much of the fluff is going to be gone from that brushed alpaca silk, but that's kind of what's causing the pilling. And I find that brushed alpaca silk kind of gets a matted look. Like this part right here, it just kind of looks matted and not like fluffy halo. So I don't know, it might be good to just get rid of it. Okay, I feel like you can see here, this fabric here looks nice and smooth and even, versus the fabric around it. There's still lots of little bumpies and pills. So I'm gonna keep doing this, I guess, to the whole sweater and then see what it looks like after. Okay, I did one pass over this whole sweater front and back with the razor, and it's looking really good, but I can still see not so much pills, but I can see where they would start to form. Like I can see little areas where as soon as you start kind of rubbing it, that's where they'll happen. It actually looks really good on camera. Oh, okay, here. So you can see there's a few more. Well, these are just actual pills. Did I do this side? This is still looking really pilly. Okay, well, maybe I didn't do this side yet. Anyway, I'll do that side. But I also just looked up to see if there was any way. I feel like I want to brush this, like kind of comb out tangles somehow. And I don't want it to become like one of those like completely brushed like mohair sweaters where it's just like completely brushed out. So I saw people use this type of brush to maybe just gently brush their knits. I'll try that, see if it does anything. Maybe if it just kind of evens out some of the fluffiness from the brushed alpaca, that might be nice. So I'll try that, and then this one I guess would be done. It's not really working to film this with one hand, but basically what I'm doing is just doing short little motions like that, while having my other hand holding down the sweater to have some tension. And I'm kind of doing it in like all directions to hopefully kind of even out some of the fluff and get it looking the best it can. And we're done. I am so impressed with how this little brush did. Couple things about it. First of all, it did a good job of picking up the extra bits of fiber that the razor took off that I missed when I was trying to collect it all and shake it off. So it did a good job of like actually cleaning all those little bits of fiber off. And then it also like did a really good job of separating the fuzzy strands and making it look fluffy again instead of kind of matted down, which that's my main complaint with brushed alpaca silk, is that when you first finish a project, it has this nice halo and like fluffy look. But after a couple wears, it kind of gets matted down and it's not as fluffy anymore and it looks just a little worn. So that's my main issue with brushed alpaca silk. But this brush like really brought it back to life, and this sweater looks like it did when I first cast it off. I'm gonna try and show you like what it looks like this. Like I don't see any pills anymore. I don't see any like little areas where I can see pills, like, oh, they would start to form here. The arm was a really bad area before, and I feel like it just looks fuzzy now. Nice. Also, only this much fiber came off of the whole sweater from both the razor and like this brush, which is not as much as I thought it'd be. So I was kind of worried that it would, as I was like using the razor to scrape the sweater, I'm like, am I taking all of that fluffy brushed alpaca? Am I taking it all out? And there's going to be just like a silk strand where that yarn used to be. And I don't think so. That's not bad. After like a year of wear, no, not a year of wear. After like maybe half a year of wear, that's pretty good. This is so soft. Yeah, I'm gonna save this in my yarn scraps bag to use as, I don't know, stuffing for something at some point. What a successful start to this project. I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I will say there's been times where I've wanted to wear this, but I haven't worn it because it was so pilly and like matted looking. So I'm excited to really wear this whenever I want again. Good start. This took me a little bit longer, well, a lot longer than I thought it would. Like I thought it'd be a quick like fabric shave with this thing. This thing did not work well for the sweater. I don't know if it's just because it's fuzzy all over or what, but the razor worked a lot better. Yeah, I thought it'd just be a quick like pass over that and then I'd be done, but it took me a while to go over the whole sweater with the razor, some areas a few times. So I think I'll actually have to come back tomorrow to start my next projects. It is the next day and we're getting started on my next task, which is going to be trying to fix the discoloration happening on my white socks. I am wearing the sweater that I depilled and brought back to life yesterday. I thought I should give it a couple wears just to like, I feel like when you're wearing it, then you notice more where, well, like you're looking at the sleeves more and you can see areas that might have trouble still. So it's looking good. There have been like a couple like random little pills that didn't come off with the razor yesterday, but it looks really good and I really like it. So the discoloration happening on these socks, white socks. This happens on like my non-hand knit white socks too. I feel like that's just what happens with white socks. It's gonna get discolored. So it's really bad on this pair of socks. This pair of socks is not as bad, but you can see just kind of like a brown gray area right there on both socks. I had mentioned that I was having this problem a few videos ago, and some people gave me suggestions on how to fix the discoloration. I'm gonna start with the methods that I already have in my house. One of them was OxiClean, using OxiClean to brighten up the white socks, and also hydrogen peroxide. So I have both of those things. I'm gonna start with the OxiClean, and if that doesn't work, then I'll use the hydrogen peroxide. So let's get a soak going for these. Okay, I have the recommended amount of OxiClean to water ratio for a soak solution happening here, and everything is dissolved. So now I just gotta let these socks soak. The OxiClean box says to let it soak for 1 to 6 hours. I did use hot water with this just to make sure everything dissolved well. And yeah, so I'll leave it probably for up to 6 hours then, if that's what it says, and see if it did anything. It says after that, then just wash it as normal. I think I'll probably just hand wash these because I don't have like light clothes to put in the washing machine. So I'll just hand wash these after their soak with some wool wash, and hopefully that fixes the discoloration. This is what it was looking like after a number of hours being soaked. Definitely still some discoloration, but a big improvement for sure. This is where I got to with my white sock color restoration project. It worked pretty good. I feel like on these socks, it's back to what it was like when I first finished these socks and hadn't worn them yet. These socks, there's still some discoloration happening, not nearly as bad as like what it was before, but just in like this area on both socks. Now, I don't think I washed out all of the OxiClean when I was hand washing these after. What I did was I rinsed out all the OxiClean after these had soaked for a number of hours, and then filled the container back up with warm water and wool soap, and then just hand washed, like trying to get like the rest of the OxiClean out and trying to get some more of the discoloration out. And I ended up using a soft bristled toothbrush to try and help with the remaining discoloration, and that worked really well actually. It wasn't felting the socks, but it was doing a better job than just like rubbing it with my hands was doing. So yeah, I will like keep that in mind for other like maybe spot cleaning treatments. Using like a soft bristled toothbrush would be a good idea. I don't think I quite got all of the OxiClean and wool wash out of them because they feel a little bit stiff. So I'm not totally done with this project yet. I think they'll need one more, maybe going into the washing machine or something, to get the rest of the product out and maybe do a little bit more help with the discoloration. It's at a point now where like I'd be good with, if this is how these look, I'm good with it. But of course they could be a little bit lighter in this area. So putting a pause on this, I think, until I'm done with the other socks, and when the other socks go for their final like wash, I'll put these in with those. So now we have to talk about the mending, sock mending process, the thing that I've been kind of putting off. I did some research this morning and I found a few different methods for mending socks. One that involves duplicate stitching for either very small holes or for areas of a sock or anything that you want to mend that doesn't have a hole yet, but it looks like it's going to have a hole, which that's what I was talking about with these socks. The fabric here is getting really thin and there will be a hole there soon. So I could use that duplicate stitch method for this pair. That's an option for this. I saw an option that involved weaving using a, what's it called? Like a wooden egg or a wooden mushroom, a darning egg, is that what it's called? Putting that inside your sock and then weaving across the hole to make a patch. And then the last method that I found just in my quick research this morning is one where you pick up stitches below the hole and then you knit a patch to go over top of the hole. And so it's a knitted patch. And I think that's gonna be what I do for all of these holes in the socks, because they're all big enough holes that they're not gonna be fixed with just like a couple stitch duplicate stitch. And I don't know why the weaving one I'm not too jazzed about. So I'm going to try the one where you pick up stitches from below the hole and then you knit back and forth while picking up stitches on either side of the hole and then close it off at the top. And I think that's what I'm gonna do for these. Now, thinking about what yarn I want to use, I had wanted, when I started this, I had wanted to try doing the like seamless looking patch where I'm using the same yarn and it blends, like you can't even tell there's a patch, or maybe you can tell if you look close, but it just blends in with the sock. I had thought about doing that, but the yarn for this, I just don't think it's a good sock yarn. The fact that the yarn wore through so easily is telling me that I should use a more durable yarn for the patches on this. So I'm going to do a very contrasty and very noticeable patch. I'm thinking of doing with bright orange. Here's the bright orange I have. Bright orange patches on the bottom of these socks. I used this in a different sock project. This is 100% wool, no nylon in it, so you know, it does have the risk of running through easier than if there was some wool in it. But it's a very rustic yarn, and I have other socks made with this yarn that aren't wearing through as quickly as this. The other thing that I'm wondering is, I forget what needle I used for these. I have it on my Ravelry, but I know I should probably use a smaller needle size for mending these holes if I want the socks to last longer. Just something I've learned as I've continued making socks is having a smaller needle size is better. The fabric might be a bit dense, but it's better for the durability of your socks. So I'm wondering if, even though I'm picking up stitches from the sock, maybe I could add an extra stitch or two to make up for the smaller needle size that I'll be using. Maybe I'll do some research to see if other people have done it first and have a method for it before I start. So that's my plan with this, to use a smaller needle size and make the patches with this yarn using that knitted patch method. For these socks, I do have some of the leftover yarn, and this is a wool nylon blend, so it is a little bit more durable. So I could, the hole's happening here, right on the heel. Yeah. I could try to make this like a seamless one, but I haven't fully decided on this one yet. I think I'll start with those brown socks, see how those go, and then decide on these socks when I'm done them. This is the first step in that knitted patch method, where I've picked up a row of stitches beneath the hole and then I'll knit onto those stitches the patch. It was definitely easier than I thought it'd be learning this new skill. Because it is knitting, it wasn't like learning a whole new, like completely new to me skill. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward to just pick up stitches along each side of the hole as you are knitting your patch, and it comes together pretty quickly. Like each hole took me, I don't know, like 15-20 minutes-ish. Here's a better view of the patch as it's being formed, so you can see that it's like attached to the sock on the sides as you're knitting, because you're picking up those stitches from the sock. And the last step is to Kitchener stitch together a row of stitches from above the patch and your stitches that you've used to make the patch. Look at all these patches. I ended up using a 2.5 millimeter needle just for all of the patches. Even though none of these socks were knit with 2.5 millimeter needles, I think all the brown ones were knit on 2.75 millimeter and the gray ones were knit on 3 millimeter needles. I just used 2.5 millimeter needles for all. And on my very first patch, I did make an extra stitch to try and account for like using a smaller needle size. But for the rest of them, I picked up, like if I picked up 11 stitches, I just kept 11 stitches the whole time. And yeah, they're patches. They're not supposed to be perfect. I really learned a lot with all these patches. My very first one was this one on the heel of my sock. And this edge where you're picking up stitches along the edge is quite messy. But like I said, they're patches. It's not supposed to be perfect. I chose the orange color for the brown socks because I wanted to be a little more adventurous with my color combinations. But when I was working on my last patch, I was like, oh, this is really giving Reese peanut butter cup. So I'm not there yet. I'm trying, but it's a work in progress. Color combinations are not easy. And then for these gray socks, I ended up just using a green yarn. And I'm not sure if this yarn is 100% wool or it's a wool nylon blend. I'm not sure, but it's also interesting that all of my socks had to be reinforced at the heels. And then my husband's socks had to be reinforced more like closer to the toe, like on the ball of the foot. Obviously we have different pressure points, I guess, where we on our feet. This one had an actual hole on the heel, and then this heel didn't have a hole yet, but it was pretty thin. Like it would be like maybe 2 or 3 more wears and then it would be a proper hole. So I did just go over kind of reinforcing it using the same method. Pick up stitches, knit a patch while you're picking up stitches on each side, and then Kitchener stitch to the rest, which, by the way, my Kitchener stitches did not, I don't think on any of them line up perfectly. So I don't think I was picking up like the right legs in the V's of the knit stitches. It's fine. I'm going to give all of these socks, including those white ones, I'm going to give them a good soak and wash, block, and then depill. There's a lot of pills on these socks. Wash, block, depill, and then come back and wrap everything up. I ended up just hand washing these and then doing the squeeze out as much water as you can, roll it up in a towel, and step on it method for the final wash and block of these socks. And then after they all dried, which they dry so quick because we have a wood stove, so it's nice getting things dried in the winter. After they were all dried the next day, then I went and depilled them all. I just used that depiller machine thing, and it worked better on these socks. I think because they weren't all like fuzzy all over, like they weren't supposed to be fuzzy like the sweater was. So the depiller gadget worked better on these than it had been working on my sweater when I tried it last week. All the socks are dry and have been depilled. Time to wrap this up. Let's go through each one and have a conclusion. So starting with my sweater that needed some serious depilling and refluffing. This is such a big success. I don't see any pills on it. I will say about a week has passed since I started this project, and I've worn this a few times since depilling it, and I was starting to get those pills or like those matted down little areas again. But it goes away just with a quick brush. This is, I think, my favorite thing that I've discovered during this little project is that this kind of brush is really nice for your fluffy knits. Yeah, just doing a quick brush that takes like 30 seconds of the whole sweater, and it's super fluffy, fuzzy again, and no like matted down areas. So that was a big success. My color restoration project is like a tentative success. I feel like on these socks, they're great. The, what's it called? OxyClean worked really well, and these ones weren't too bad. These socks still have some discoloration even after soaking again in wool wash. Definitely not as bad. I feel like it looks bad, but that's because of the shadow. This is how it looks. Definitely still some discoloration, so next time I might try a different method, but I'm okay with how they look, and I am getting a little scared of felting. Like already it's not too difficult to take it apart, but when I was first trying to stretch it a bit, it was like I could hear some like crinkling or something, and I was like, oh no, is that the sound of the beginning of felting? So these are, yeah, a tentative success, but also they're white socks, so I think they're just gonna have to be a little bit discolored. And then finally, all my patches. They look great. I did de-pillow these, although it looks like there's still some pills on some of them, but these socks are looking good. They're looking really good. I haven't tried them on yet. I'm gonna try it on and see how the patches feel on my feet. Here we go. They feel pretty good. I think because mine are on the heels, and for all the socks that I did, I had done a heel flap and gusset type of heel. So it feels like just a little bit, like there's almost like it's a bit of extra like cushioning in the heel. But I'm so excited to have these socks, well, yeah, my 2 pairs of socks back in rotation, because I haven't worn them since I got holes in them because I didn't want to make the holes bigger or get more holes. So yeah, I'm excited to have these and those brown socks back in rotation. My husband can have his socks back. And yeah, this was a fun project. I learned a lot. If you have knits that need some attention, it can be a fun project to try and bring them back to life and fix them up, bring them back to what they were when you first finished them. And now it's like, it feels like I have new items again because I haven't been wearing these because I needed to fix them. So it's almost like I have a whole bunch of finished projects that I get to wear now. So it's a fun feeling. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.